I believe that home shows have been the most, as far as my construction company I owned, that was probably the most profitable form of marketing I ever did by far. Usually if I showed up at a home show, I've never gotten less than probably 65 jobs out of a home show, and 65 bids, I'm sorry, and a lot of times you get over 150, and these are small home shows. I have been to Brisbane Home Show, I've been to the Toronto Home Show, Recife, Brazil. I've seen a lot of really cool, huge city home shows, and I've never seen an epoxy booth show up and not be the biggest thing at any of those home shows. It's because it's a very unknown product, and once people start learning about it, if you project it right, it's pretty amazing. I will say you want to capitalize on that sooner than later before the market gets flooded. I do think in the next 5 years, you're going to see a lot of epoxy in every home show, but right now, you really get into home shows and nobody's really seen it before, and it's just free advertising because you don't have any competition. If you showed up as a tile guy, how many tile guys are at your local home show, do you think? How many people are in your city?
In the area, it's small. There's maybe 20, 25,000 in the area, and at home shows, there's probably, I don't know, they're not that big, but there's probably 15 different companies
that all do tile. I love showing up when you're the only guy in town. A lot of people are afraid to not have the product that everybody wants. I don't really want something that everybody's doing. I'd rather be the one that 2% of the people want you and there's nobody to go to but you. That allows you to actually have higher quality and charge what you want so you don't make poor decisions on a job. What time of year are you doing this? Can we go to the slideshow? I'm sorry. I can't fucking read this little writing, so I'll do the first person marketing slide. I apologize. The writing is like that little, so, and I don't have a telescope. You really do have to have a plan. I notice a lot of people sit behind a desk at a home show. Who here has been to a home show? Has anyone noticed that about 80% of the booths just have people sitting there waiting to give you a card or something like that? So you really do need to make a plan if you show up at a home show, because you're going to probably spend, even if it doesn't cost you $5,000 to get into the home show, I bet you by the time you spend your time, material, setup, samples, everything, you could have probably thrown away $5,000 for the same price. So don't throw it away. Make sure you get a return on your investment. Where is the home show located? A lot of people do home shows out of their area. We see people all the time that are hitting multiple home shows, but they have a two-man crew. If you're landing anywhere from 70 to 200 jobs at a home show and you're hitting 2 or 3 home shows and you're a 3-man crew, I don't know what you're doing. You're smoking crack. Who's in front of me? Who's my target audience? Those are really important things. Am I really marketing to the flooring community? Am I marketing to the wall community? Am I marketing to a countertop customer? You need to really think about it and be organized. A lot of people will have epoxy all over their home shows and they don't really mention, is this a flooring sample? Is it a countertop sample? Is it a wall sample? So they start confusing the customers and they lose all their customers right out the back. So have as much passive marketing, like writing, stencils, whatever you need to do, so that the customer doesn't have to talk to you, because in the most cases, customers don't want to talk to you. They want to read as much as possible, and if they're really overwhelmed with interest, they're going to come in and talk to you about it. And usually they're going to come in and try to see it and touch it and look at it before they talk to you. And so I try to answer as many questions as possible. I'll even say, this is not granite. Are you tired of granite? Are you tired of seams? Like, have a seamless countertop, temperature resistant epoxy. Because the other thing you see at home shows is a lot of douchey guys telling their wives they know what everything is, and they'll walk by and be like, oh, that's granite, honey, and they're stupid. So I like when their wives are like, that's not granite, can't you fucking read? So that's one thing I like a lot. Scratch resistant? Go fucking scratch a piece if you want and tell me how scratch resistant it is. So depends a lot on your process and everything. I have noted people key your shit with a key. Like, I'll go key your car in the parking lot if you do that to me at a home show. I've had it happen multiple times. I've never found their cars, but I'm going to do it next time. So can you scratch it? Yes. Can you scratch Corian?
Yes.
Is it repairable? Corian's not very. You get a dip in it, right? You get that big wave going on. Formica, you scratch Formica. Can you repair it? Can you polish that out? Never. Granite. What happens with granite when you try to polish out? Resin polish granite. You're fucked, right? Epoxy, you could probably polish out scratches for 100 years if you had the countertops long enough. Big thing I try to do, and I'm just going to kind of breeze through this. It's not, Be approachable. I believe approachable is standing up. If you're sitting down in the corner, you're not approachable, and you're not really interested in the customer. Don't try to sell them shit. All I'm going to ask a person is where they're from. That's a very easy, where are you from? Texas? I'm not interested in you. You don't matter to me if you're, seriously. Are you moving here?
Nope.
You have a house here?
No.
You're worthless. I wouldn't say that to you, but I would talk to you until somebody else came in the home show, and I would be like, hey, thank you. Look around, tell me if you're interested. I hope you have a good day. But I had to get valuable information because you probably just think I'm fucking sexy and you want to talk to me and waste all my time while I lose my 20 other customers. I know she doesn't think that unless she's blind or retarded, so, and I don't think she is. So, but you have to have a smooth way to get the information you need so that you're not wasting time. Because I have talked to customers for 40 fucking minutes, and they're like, oh, I'm from Texas, man. I don't even own a house. I'm in a rental. How are you so interested about the product? Well, 32 people went through my booth. So get the valuable information so that when somebody else comes in and I ask this sweet lady, I'm like, oh, where are you from? I'm from Grand Junction. Oh, what you doing here? Are you having fun here today? It's a lot of people. I'm going to be very approachable, and for starters, I don't really care if I sell you anything. Because selling her something is not valuable, but fixing her problem may be. Well, I kind of have an issue with my shower. It's on a second floor and it's leaking, so I'm trying to figure out, my kids can't take showers. We're all sharing a downstairs shower so we don't damage our drywall. Oh, that's awesome. Hey, I'm going to talk to her really quick. Hang out as long as you want. You can get a water under the booth. Yeah, have you ever thought of wall epoxy or something like that? We can seal it in and go directly over your tile. If you want a free estimate, we could do that. And maybe that was very direct. I probably would have talked to you longer, but does that make sense to you? You need to think of smooth ways to also not waste all your time. If you're at a home show for 3 or 4 days, you probably worked a long week. You had like a 30-hour day setting up for your home show and doing your jobs, and then you're in a home show for 3 days in a row talking to 1,000 people a day, you get really overwhelmed. So you don't want to waste a whole lot of extra words on each individual person. So now if she says she's interested and I consider that a bid that's scheduled, I have to have her name, her phone number, her address, and what we're bidding at her job, and a time scheduled that we're going to meet her. If I don't have all 5 of those things, it is not a bid. It's just somebody that's kind of interested and they can have a card and have a nice day. I'm going to get that because I'm going to explain that she'll get a 20% discount on all work performed that's bid during the home show. So if you get a bid at the home show, we're discounting everything 20%. So 20% of what? That's your business. So I usually start out with really basic costs like 55 to 85 for countertops, 20 to 40 for walls depending on square footage and whatnot. Is it a shower wall or is it a little difficult backsplash? And it's usually really gets them to want to schedule a bid at the actual home show, and you don't have to be pushy. You just explain that you're usually busy next year. Now, when I was doing home show after home show, every year I'd do a home show, I usually could not get my jobs finished from last year's home show before I was at the next year's home show. So you can get a ton of work off it if you do it correctly. Have really good samples, but make sure you can replicate them. Who here has messed around with epoxy? And who sprayed a sample forever that you thought, well, there's no way I'll ever duplicate that? Do you know how many people take those to home shows? Customers pick those samples and you can't duplicate it, and you end up making people mad. Have simple stuff that you know you can duplicate. That's why we want to be controlled with our temperature, our mixing process, our percentages of color. How much did we spray? How much did we pour? How much did we brush? If you can't replicate it, you have no business being at a home show and advertising it. Display enough information. You really need to display enough information so that they don't have to ask you questions, because I can tell you 90% of customers are not going to speak to you unless they're compelled by some information they see other than you. Another thing, I believe passive, not intrusive, solve their problems. I think the only way to be long-term profitable is be solving problems. If you're not blessing a person's life or bettering their life in some way, I don't think you should even be in business if you're not helping people. So you're just a ripoff. Passive and not intrusive. I choose, and this is weird, I choose to have pretty girls at home shows. You know why? She would trust a pretty girl. She would not trust me. She sees some weird dude with a beard, and I'm probably trying to scam her or might rape her in her house. You never know what people think about a dude approaching them. And I tell her, hey, I'm amazing. You don't have any clue how good I am at epoxy. And she's like, this stupid ass guy. She goes and tells her husband how weird I am. Let's skip that booth. All the people on my aisle probably hate me now because they're going to skip my aisle. Now, she comes up to the home show, super approachable. She's very non-threatening, right? Unless she has like a switchblade or something. But she's very non-threatening. You'll talk to her. Then she can be like, oh, Levi will answer any of your questions. He's really good at this. Now I'm immediately trusted by you. And I'm not trying to trick people, but I do want to be as passive and easy to solve their problems without being intrusive or overwhelming to them as possible. You never know what that customer experiences they've had in the past that make them uncomfortable. So I don't do it to try to get the guys. I usually get the ladies with the ladies, because women will talk to another women. A lot of times women will not talk to a man, and if they do, they don't trust them. And they probably shouldn't, because there's a lot of fucking scumbags. And then you got that homes on homes guy. We need to find him and beat his ass. So he makes, who would like to see a show? Everybody know Homes on Homes, the guy that goes in houses and he's like, look what this contractor did. He tried to kill a customer with a handrail that's rickety. I wish they highlighted the customer and were like, look at this cheap bitch. She paid the guy $113 and expected the Taj Mahal. But she's a ripoff and never would pay the second half. So he left and didn't fucking care. So charge what you're worth so you can do the right job. Location. On a storefront, this is very important. Home show, I don't really think location is important. I actually think that being back and out of the way for my type of booth is actually very valuable. If I'm at a home show and my booth is back out of the way, you're exhausted, you already got through all these stupid booths and you're annoyed, and then you see this home show booth that I build. I usually frame my walls with 8 feet tall. I put paneling on it. I paint it all black. The only thing you can see that's not flat black is my samples with lights on it. Put a little music, put some plants in the hallway. When the staff at the home show is not looking, you keep pushing your table out so you have more room inside your home show booth. And I usually do 10 by 20. That's the best. You can walk through, you get easy foot traffic. And then people will just come and camp in your booth because they're so happy to be out of the way of everybody. People see everybody in your booth and everybody else comes down to see what they're looking at. So storefront. Who here has a storefront? You have a storefront?
I have a gallery.
That's cool. We got to see your work. You should show us what you do. So. You have a storefront? Yes. So if you want walk-in traffic and whatnot, there's 2 totally different models. A lot of construction companies, they have a storefront, but really it's a shop that you can come and look at a showroom that's probably by appointment only because you already got the customer somewhere else and you can take them out of the way. I had a shop off on the street. I still have it. It's over on Westlow Avenue. And it's really out of the way. You'd never get, we could have homeless people walk in traffic, but you'd never have a homeowner ever accidentally walking through that area. So, so you really have to think of how you're marketing. If that is your showroom and it's way out of the way, then you have to think about some kind of other form of marketing. A lot of people get showrooms and they get a storefront, but it's so far out of the way and they can't figure out why they don't have traffic. So other people get a storefront and it's an amazing location, but your first day your gallery was open. Did you have a lot of walk-in traffic?
No. The first day, yes.
Because you did a grand opening.
Grand opening kind of thing, yeah.
2 weeks into it, had you been there where you didn't get a person all day?
Yes.
That's when people go home. So she's saying she had entire days where nobody walks in her storefront at all. That is when a lot of people just say, man, there's not very many customers, I'm going to leave a phone number on the door. I say shut your storefront down, save the money, and leave if that's what you're going to do. Because customers start recognizing how consistent you are. If you have hours that are 9 to 5, fucking be 9 to 5 whether you like it or not every single time. How many times have you driven to a business that says 9 to 5, or you call a business, I hate this shit. Sorry, our hours of operation are 9 to 5, and I'm like, well, it's 2 p.m., dumbass, and you're not, and I've called 4 times, and you're obviously out of the office. So the people that run our home show are just like that. They take your money, and you can't get a hold of them for anything. So you're going to be very quickly be known, oh, she's never there. Don't ever even waste your time going to that gallery. She's never there anyways. So if you're going to waste the money on a storefront and the effort and time to set it up, make sure you staff it accordingly to whatever you advertise to. Don't have too many options. I'm glad I was going to skip all this, but I'm going to actually go over this. Label samples so you know what they're looking at. A big mistake I made, I think I had 43 samples is what I counted. When I used to run all 2x2 samples and every one had a different edge profile around it. I mean, not all different edge profiles, but I had probably 12 different edge profiles on 43 samples. And I had them all lined up on the wall. I had probably 6 different types of whites that were going into grays. I had grays going into blacks. I had all coppers, bronzes. I mean, I had basically every sample I could ever think of doing in every form. And I'd go to a home show. I went to one home show one year and I got a lot of bids, a ton of bids. A lot of people were interested. I took that setup, I put it back in my actual storefront, and I just arranged what was best at the home show and I arranged what was best in my showroom. And it really fucked everybody up because they walked in and they were like, oh man, that's a lot. I don't know if it was this white or that white. Maybe it was a grayish one. I'm not really sure. I need to talk to my husband. Have you ever got a person call you back after they say, I got to talk to my husband or talk to my wife? That's how they can get out of there because they're like, I don't know what I was looking at. I'm not that interested today. So I cut everything down to 14 samples. I closed way more jobs. Even at that home show, I kind of saved it because I went and looked at pictures and figured out my exact layout, and I rearranged it. And I tried to make my showroom mimic the home show as much as possible, and I started closing jobs. But I had about 4 or 5 days in there where it was kind of confusing, and I lost probably 80% of the people that were coming in because I confused them with so many options, and in different places they didn't know what they were looking at. So be organized. Don't have too many samples.
Were those countertop samples?
Mostly countertop, yes. I usually run floors, a 1/4-inch MDF, lay it right on the floor, pour your flooring samples. A 10 by 20 booth, you can usually have 5 across there and some strips in the front or to the back by your wall, whatever you think looks best. So they're already walking on the floor, the super tracks, whatever different types. You'll have wall epoxy samples, countertop samples, have one little countertop in a corner or something like that. You can usually make it pretty organized without a whole lot to look at. So, and I think the cleaner, the better you're gonna sell. Google marketing. Who uses Google? Like any kind of Google Analytics, Google advertising? Okay. What's your results like?
Not very good.
Do you understand what overpriced attention is? What's overpriced attention? Yeah. Do you know how much countertop epoxy was as a pay-per-click word when I first paid for it? 8 cents. I think it was like 6 cents, and then it went up to 8, like the first week or second week. When we first did this, we mixed this product, and I started mixing colors with epoxy. I got told we were idiots. I went to World of Concrete and tried to show it to 3 big companies to ask if they'd manufacture for us, and we got told no by every single one of them. And they said, epoxy, and this is what everybody said, epoxy is not meant to have colors mixed with it. You're supposed to do your art, do your concrete floor, whatever you're doing decoratively, and epoxy is made to be a coating. And they were very condescending, and they thought I was an idiot. Every one of those companies I talk to tries to copy us now, and I love it. So pay-per-click advertising for that word, though, went from 8 cents probably to $4. That is what I consider overpriced advertising, overpriced attention. If you notice and you look through the history of, say, internet sales, what was the best form of contacting people 15 years ago, say 18 years ago? It was probably phone book a little bit, right? Now, what was next? How did you get marketed to on the internet? Email. He's right. It was all email, right? Did you start seeing emails and you're like, what? Like, I remember being in Iraq and being like, what? You want to hire me to do what? No, I'm not sending my money to Kenya. I don't even have that much. So, and then you start figuring out, oh, people are targeting you through email, right? Then where did it go? What were people watching? Yeah, and they started watching YouTube, right? But YouTube wasn't owned by Google back then. YouTube used to be its own deal, right? Then where did it go? What's that? Where the Vines, right? Vines was one. MySpace, right? MySpace was huge, right? And then it became a joke to ever have it. What's another form of social media back then? You're not old enough. Old people. Then it went to Facebook, right? Now Facebook is kind of dying off to Instagram, right? So attention just keeps changing. And when it starts out, you get really cheap advertising. As you get further in and everybody starts recognizing it, usually big companies, they're really slow to jump on a new idea, but when they do, they'll put, like, I checked, I think it was Home Depot's pay-per-click advertising campaign budget, and I believe it was $480,000 a day is what they spend. That's probably not really that much. I mean, they have like 6,000 stores. That's probably really cheap. So, and that's what they're spending. That's not all their marketing. That's what they're spending on extra pay-per-click. So be very thoughtful. A lot of people look at huge companies like Coca-Cola, and I think sometimes we can get caught up in trying to market how other people, because everybody does Google pay-per-click marketing, and so they're spending $4 for a click, and everybody's competing for the same word, and they really should probably slow down, maybe understand pay-per-click advertising a little better. Maybe they need longer tail keywords specific to their location or whatnot, and you can use the location services to direct people to your business because they're searching near you for a near product. But a lot of people I've seen will be a little small 3-man crew, and they're putting something out nationally to where somebody in Florida tries to find countertops and this guy's trying to advertise to it. Why? It's stupid. So you should have had location services pop up so they can see where your business is or the area you service or whatnot, if that makes sense to you. And you can have it just center of the city if you don't have a storefront or something, and you could do your other marketing on Facebook, local groups and stuff like that. So just be kind of thoughtful. Don't get sucked into spending a ton of money on something where you're going to have a very low return on your investment. Do you guys all understand location? I meant to go over this? Does everybody understand location services, what that does with Google? If you go register your company with Google and you're in that town, if I'm in your town in Texas and I search epoxy countertops and you're advertising epoxy countertops in your town, even if my website gets 100 times more traffic or probably 10,000 times more traffic than you, I'm going to find your place because Google says, hey, he's searching for something that he's right next to. Go to you. And that's actually very valuable, I think. So don't confuse branding with marketing. I already said that once, but really, if I was going to brand a small company in a town, instead of doing it all spending money to go do it you can brand yourself on Facebook and Instagram and Google and all these different forms of media. You can probably spend $100,000 and have an okay recognizable brand in a year, or you could probably spend $3,000 or $4,000 in some of your time and go to a local small gym or something and say, hey, I'm going to do your countertops. You're not making a ton of money. Who's going to a gym? Who's going to an old gym? Who else goes to those old gyms? All the people with money in that town, right? And they walk in and they're like, who did that? Guess what? That gym's probably struggling for money because gyms inherently are very low profit businesses. They would love some free countertops, and everybody with money in that town is going to walk past your stuff every morning. That is how I would brand, and I bet you your return on investment of $3,000 or $4,000 spent in there is going to go further than any marketing campaign ever. And then you have a public location that if somebody does want to see it, the gym's not going to be sad if you say, hey, whenever I want to send people into your gym to look at the countertops, can I? Oh, please do, because they're going to try to sell them a gym membership too. So it goes both ways. Another thing is we find a lot of guys who here drives out and does all their bids at the customer's house. If you get some of these locations set up, you can make customers feel a little more comfortable with later hour bids and everything like that. So you may not be able to meet them there, depending on how well you know the staff. Some of them might not mind you running a bid in their boardroom or something like that, their conference room. But you may be able to work with a tile store or something like that that's struggling and say, hey, I'll put a new product, I'll put up a showroom area for you, you'll get 20%. Give them a high percentage and charge it to the customer. And have a section, an area where the customer can come in, feel safe at 7 o'clock at night if it's a single lady and you're not showing up at her house in your little rapist van. So this here, that's important to me. How many people do you see that kind of know how to do something, but they're not an expert? That annoys me. I don't like that. If you're going to spend your life doing something, do you really want to die and your kids are like at your funeral saying like, Dad was okay at a lot of stuff he did? Or would you rather them being like, man, Dad was a badass. He was like the best at this in this area. And so I really think you should find what you're trying to be profitable at. And if you spend, you don't have to work 10 times harder. You probably work 30 times harder than people while you're learning. And you're going to become very quickly known as an expert in your field. I solved a few customers' problems that were kind of difficult, and I could not believe the jobs I got from it. I got huge commercial jobs. I had people leaving me $300,000 checks for down payments because they trusted me because I was referred by a person that said, Levi, I can solve your problem, to another guy that had a problem, and I was told that I would be the one that solved their problem. And it was amazing, the jobs, and I wasn't that much smarter than anyone. You know what I usually did? Because I knew I was dumb, I would go fucking talk to the smart guy. But so many people would say, it's not my business, not my problem, I don't know that, but they would never go find the answer for people. I would figure out whatever I needed to do to solve their problems, and it became very profitable to be a problem solver. So be thoughtful of that. All your marketing in the world can't make up for a half-assed fucking attempt at business. So, social media. Here's something, right? Who has a Facebook page? Who thinks you have a lot of friends on Facebook? Who has ran an ad and said, put on your page and said, hey, I do countertops? Everybody has, right? Anybody? Okay. Have you ever got a call from like Florida and you're like, well, where are you from again? You're from Dallas, yeah. Have you ever got a call from like Maine and they're like, dude, that's awesome. I'd like you to do my bathroom vanity. And you're like, oh, well, you're not local, right? How many friends you got on Facebook? 480, yeah. Who has 5,000 friends on Facebook? Huh? Anybody have 5,000 friends, 4,000 friends, 3,000 friends, 2,000 friends? Anybody have a friend? By the way, if they're Facebook friends, you don't have friends. But the fake ones on Facebook, who has a Facebook? Who has 1,000 Facebook friends? She does. That's because she posts the sexy pictures on Facebook all the time. That's not fair. I can't compete with that. So, I wish I could do what Instagram girls do all the time. So just wear a bikini and I'd sell a whole lot more. Who has a local classified section in their hometown? How many people are on it? Western Slope Classifieds. We have a valley, our whole county has 130,000 people in it. We have about 70-some thousand people on Western Slope Classifieds, right? So I see people all the time posting things on their own pages, and they're reaching 1,000 to 5,000 people. Facebook limits you at 5,000 friends, right? And then I see their posts. They do it today. Some of them are watching on this live right now. And I see somebody being like, hey, dude, when you're in Florida, hit me up. I want you to do my vanity. Can you do my shower wall when you're out here in Texas? Can you do that? You're not fucking driving to any of these customers' houses ever. It's never going to happen. It's all little pissy work, right? You could stay right in your hometown and test free advertising. You're not paying Google for anything. You go on Western Slope Classifieds and you hit 70,000 people with one hit for free. And they're all right there in your local area, unless there's some. Do y'all see on the classified sections, somebody will be commenting on something and they're like from Texas, and you're like, what are you even doing on our, this is Western Slope Classifieds, get out of our business. So, but you can reach way more customers just by understanding social media, and it's a great place for free to test things. And then if you saw something that was amazing advertising, it really worked for you, and you're like, I always get a lot of interest on this, then go spend money and make that into an ad of some other form of media, right? So, who knows about before I move on from there, past Facebook, who knows about our installer group? We have an installer group. It's just Diamond Coat installers. We've had some people talk about their private life on social media before and then try to go market their company before, and you can't mix the two. Well, you can, but it looks really stupid. So we have a private group. One of the most damaging things I've seen is them come out and be like, oh, this job's just fucked. I'm screwed. I don't know what to do. I poured it and it froze. It was cold. My heaters don't work or something. And the very next post, and I'm actually thinking about a specific person, and I'm trying to say this so sneaky that they can't figure this out if they're watching, that I'm talking about them. Their very next post I saw was, yo, hit me up if you want countertops. And I was like, God, if I was interested in countertops and I saw that post, I'd go look at your profile and I'd see your last ad that you suck at what you do. So diagnose your problems on a private group that's just other installers. It's a pretty badass group, and I've seen 10:30 on Saturday night. People put out there, say, dude, I'm on a job. I don't know what to do. Our office is closed. Everything's closed. They've probably direct messaged me to try to get an answer. I didn't even know I got a direct message because there's 500 unread ones. But they went and put it on there, and in 5 minutes they had 7 answers that were all different ideas and ways to fix it, and a lot of them are very genius, and I've seen some really smart fixes on there. Yeah, and just DM our page if you need to, our Diamond Coat group, and just say, please add me to the installer group. What's that?
You just have to answer a question.
Yeah, answer a question. I don't know what question. Awesome, I guess my slide's over. Oh, print, damn it. Yeah, it's over basically. I do think there's a slight need sometimes for billboard advertising for very specific business types. I highly doubt that it's any of you guys. It's very expensive. A good billboard's $1,200 to $1,500 a month. They go up to about $2,500 a month depending on digital and where it's at and how much time you have on the board and everything. So be very thoughtful. Print marketing, I think, is a waste of time. Does anybody pay for print marketing? Good, don't ever do it. So. There, best marketing is word of mouth. So at the end of the day, and the only way you're going to get word of mouth is be known as a subject matter expert and actually solving people's problems. So many people come out as salespeople and they try to sell a customer something, and those are people I hate. I hate buying a car because it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. They're always. Have you ever gone and said, hey, I bought the green truck out there. You go to the place and you're like, I'm looking for something to tow a trailer. I have a big cargo trailer. I want to tow it. Not looking for anything new. It needs to be a diesel. I want it to be able to tow. Oh, we have a $105,000 diesel truck right here. Nope, out of my price range, not interested. Oh man, what else would you drive? I can't think of. Well, just take it for a drive anyways. Go fuck yourself. Don't sell people, but think about this. If you solved my problem and said, hey, We just got this truck in. It's $32,000. It's 2016. It works really well. It's in really good shape. I'll get you a deal. And you didn't try to sell the person, I bet you'd go back to that salesperson for the rest of your life and buy everything from them. So I want to just solve people's problems and be good enough to know I actually solved it. And if I wasn't, I want to learn what I need to learn to solve your problems. And then you're going to buy by default. So, and if you don't, there's no harm. So have a good day. Let's go to class.
Could I have
Yes, ma'am.
question about print? I thought when you were talking about home shows, there was print material for them to have.
Print it up on the wall, and then because they're in your home show, you could give them a brochure or something. But that's somebody, so she brought up a very good point, and I'm glad she said this. I'm talking about newspaper when I say print advertising being worthless. If they're in your booth, then give them a flyer. Has anyone ever handed cards to people? Yeah, I hate business cards. I usually don't even carry them. I travel all over the world. I never carry business cards. Sometimes I should for known interactions, but I view business cards as worthless to me, especially at a home show. Has anyone been at a home show and passed out business cards?
Not the passive passing out where you just sit at the table.
Right. I see a very low ROI on business cards or flyers or brochures because most people at a home show have a bag from the home show and they're filling it up, filling it up, filling it up. They just keep adding every. They get home, they don't fucking know. They just are so happy they got free shit. So you just, I say if that's all you're gonna do, throw your cards in the dumpster and go have fun that day. So, yes, sir.
Can you elaborate a little more on your Instagram? 'Cause you got a huge presence on Instagram. I'm very impressed by it. I mean,
Basically, I just try to take lots of naked pictures on the beach, and you saw my naked pictures. I'm like, shit. Sorry. Right. I think Instagram's interesting. I think Facebook's interesting. Facebook is kind of a cool way to build a business profile without building a website. Does that make sense? I personally think websites are going to be dead within the next 5 to 10 years. I don't think websites will be a thing people really go to. I think that you'll be utilizing web addresses and websites to catch traffic that's coming from Instagram or Snapchat or your Pouncer app or whatever you're looking at. So, and then they'll be directed to a website for a purchase on a shopping cart option. I don't believe websites are really going to be a thing for in the next few years, other than just hosting a processing center and a list of your items or whatnot. So be kind of thoughtful. Facebook, if you're selling a service, is a great place to build more of a profile of who you are, where you can detail yourself a little bit more. It is an older group of people on there, but the group on Facebook, it's like 32 to 72 right now, is the average demographic on Facebook. And if you look at that, those are people with money and they probably own homes. So it's probably a great demographic. Instagram's great, but it is more of just a quick grab. You might be able to showcase your work, but it's limited how much you can talk about it, how much people are really going to read. And if you look at like customer behavior, they're usually just swiping so quickly. They'll stop for a second and you can capture some people to be interested, but you better have somewhere to direct them after that. You're probably not going to close a whole deal just on Instagram. So just know the strengths and weaknesses of each type of site. I would say I would have a Facebook profile built because it's real easy to then use all the same photos and same content for Instagram, so you're not working twice, and you can catch some of the customers on Instagram, some on Facebook. But remember that neither of those really target a location unless you go into private groups and stuff like that. So
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, like Pinterest and Instagram, it's kind of speaking what you just said earlier. Like if we get onto that and we start advertising through that, then I'm going to have people call me from other states.
and it becomes really low value. I mean, that, to us, I mean, we sell all over the world. We're in a little bit different situation, so I try not to advise people how we advertise, because I see a lot of people try to copy what we do and then they get really frustrated with it and think it's not working because they're having to ship a crew somewhere versus just product. So be kind of thoughtful as to what you're doing. Yes, sir.
I've been focusing on just Google My Business.
Uh-huh.
It's the best thing out there, I think.
If you're in a small area and you,
Atlanta, and it probably brings me about 20 calls a week.
that's good. What are you using?
For what?
Are you pay-per-click market, pay-per-click advertising?
Just the map section.
Oh, right.
Focusing.
Nope. Oh, so you just set up they know right where you are. It's location services. So anybody, and that's what we were talking about at first, and that's very valuable. So anyone that Google's in his area, he's going to be the top person that pops up. And that's utilizing Google correctly. Whereas a lot of people wouldn't have set up location, so nobody even knows where you're at, but they spend a bunch of money on location or on advertising and pay-per-click. If you do pay-per-click, make sure it's what's called a long tail keyword, so you want it very descriptive, and you want it to only target your audience in your area. So, and you talk to our staff, I don't fucking know, and I don't need to know that, so they're way smarter than me. Anything else, guys?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Get off the subject what you're on. I'd like to explain to us how we could measure how much product we're gonna need to do a certain product.
There's a good question. So I generally figure on 1/8 of an inch of epoxy. It's approximately 100 mils. That's technically 1/10 of an inch, but the industry standard calls it 1/8 of an inch, so that's what we say. How much is a mil? How thick is 1 mil? You guys epoxy coating guys? So in the epoxy world, everything is very commonly worldwide measured in mil thicknesses. A mil is 1/1000th of an inch. So 100 mil coating is 1/10 of an inch. Does that make sense? Now the only way I measure is I measure my square footage, and I run about 15 square feet per gallon. You can get it out to about 18.5, and it'll be the exact 1/8 of an inch. If you run too little product, has anyone ever ran too little product? What happened? Fish eyes, right? Because it has surface tension. Due to the viscosity and surface tension, if you're not thick enough, have you ever dumped water on a flat surface and see it pull together? And it's a little bead sitting there. Epoxy does that, but much slower. So you spread epoxy over a whole countertop, and then you get divots that go right down to the surface. It was just trying to pull together because it has surface tension. It's trying to be thick enough. And the way we designed the product with the wetting agents and whatnot, it tries to be about 1/8 of an inch or 100 mils thick. So if you pour it a little bit thicker, then you're not disrupting your patterns. When you're trying to get an exact coverage from this corner to that corner and spread material, you don't have to overwork your product. So 15 square feet per gallon is usually kind of how I measure per coat. I usually do my decorative coat, then the next day I come back and I'll say, well, we're going to run a clear and we can add any accents. So if you want to do it really simple on a white marble and then the customer says, I love the gold, can you add more? No problem, I'll put it some right there in the clear. A clear coat's really easy to do too, but you can overdo it really quickly because now if you spray gold on a white surface with white epoxy that's wet still, and you sprayed too much, you can actually work some of that gold under the surface where it gets hidden. You spray too much gold in a clear coat that's on top of cured white, you're not sinking into the surface, you can't hide it any longer. You have to get another color and spray it over the top to hide it. So it's a really easy way to adjust stuff the next day. You also become the only person at a home show that allows a customer to adjust the look of the countertops after they already had it installed overnight. So you install the countertops, they get to look at it, and if they can make any little changes, it really eases the comfort level on the customer when they know they can adjust something with a totally unknown product. Considering granite, they can pick the exact piece and have it in their house, that's a comfort level. When you have an ability to adjust something, that's another way to give them a comfort level. So anything else, guys? All right, so today we're gonna start casting in there. On the table, so we're going to have a team of people casting. We're also going to be doing the large wall in there, and we're going to be doing samples out here. So for starters, I'd like everybody to move in and just try to be kind of patient. Try not to overcrowd the workspace. Don't walk on the plastic a bunch. If you drip epoxy, be careful. This is my one rule that I don't expect you guys to follow, but you need to. If you step on epoxy, stop walking. Somebody's going to be, we'll see a person, they'll be wandering all around. If you look at my floors, there's epoxy everywhere on them because people get it on their shoes and then they'll walk out here to get a rag to clean it off their shoe while they tracked it all the way across, and then somebody else walks through it. And then epoxy's everywhere, and then I see that dumbass guy? So make sure we don't have a meeting with him. Is there anybody waiting on dealer meetings? Okay. Yeah, Ethan's going to start pulling you guys right now to have the dealer meetings. Make that happen. I don't want him waiting until the last minute.
I was actually going to ask about the dealer stuff.
Yeah, if you want to sign up as an installer, left sheet, dealer, right sheet, and they'll have a meeting with you, go over anything. It's looking pretty good. Hey, how are you today?
Doing well.
Are you really? I'm doing
You
good. I'm
sound like
tired.
you're getting a little bit better.
I am. There's no sun back there.
I am sorry. It's so hard. You're taking care of your kids and working like crazy.
Yeah, no, they're doing good.
So here is our wall.
Fun.
You too, if at all possible. Did he find the outside corner wall trowel? Do you know what those look like? Can we see if we can find one?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna run this with those.
That's the one that's like an inverted angle, right?
Yeah, it's made to up, so we can do this side of the wall. So. No, I just want you to learn the wall really well. So, 'cause I think that's all you haven't seen. Good morning. Good morning. Very good, man.
Did you not sleep again last night?
A little better.
That's good. Are you just feeling ill, or is it just like stress or something?
Just think too much. Always. Once. Which one of my people is going to be in charge of mixing casting? Where's Leah? Oh, yeah. Do you know how to mix casting? Okay. I do want you over there. God damn it. Too much. I need you to help too much with the wall probably too, so because you're going to be working with me. I need Dominic with me. I'll put you in charge of the table since it's very important.
Okay.
All right, Leah's going to be in charge of casting, and do you have this in your pocket? No, you sanded it.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, that's hot.
Yep. There was like a big chunk in it, so I just flamed it, and then I was like,
That works. Because we had 6. What do you think about like 15?
I don't know.
You think?
doesn't make a crazy difference, but it will be a little darker than. Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
I just want it very similar. I just want it measured very accurately each time. Let's run 30.
Okay.
So,
Do we have one of those little droppers?
hey Dom. And get me before we pour.
Okay.
And now with casting, we're going to start using casting resin right now. With casting resin, we are not trying to get it up to temp. We're trying to keep it cool. Because kind of your enemy in casting is the fact that it is already in mass. So it's going to exotherm really quickly. So you do want to keep casting cooler. Big shops that cast major, like next door, they cast 4-foot thick panels that are 30 feet tall and 80 feet long. They have liquid to liquid heat transfer running through glycol running through lines and chilling with thermostats all the way vertically and horizontally through all the casting panels. Obviously, we're not doing that, but realizing how important temperature is, we want to use alcohol instead of a torch to pump air bubbles because evaporation. What does evaporation do? Cools it down, right? So the alcohol pops the air bubbles, and because of the evaporation. It's very important initially to keep the alcohol on it, because once it starts getting away from you temperature-wise, it goes really quick. So, and you don't want that with casting. So we do have small enough cracks here. Most of it probably won't cook too quick on us, but if you were to just to fill this whole thing all at once, right away, there is a pretty good chance if you didn't keep alcohol going on it that it would probably just cook on you. So Leah's going to be in charge. Who's going to help her? You guys? Okay, there's your team. So we're going to be mixing 3 kits in that 5-gallon pail. So we'll make sure Dom has all that. The rest of us are going to go over here to this wall. You might have to tell Dom to get the dropper. We're going to measure our pigment because I want that to look like smoke gray tinted glass or something like that between all the clear. I just think that would look badass. So instead of trying to measure pigment out, we're going to actually drip it out of a dripper container, if that makes sense, so we can count drops just really accurately because I don't want it to be black. The other thing is, since we may pour 2 or 3 times, you don't want to see layers of different colors because you will. If you just start guessing each time, you'll see different ends be different layers be different, tints and shades. I want it all to be one very clear cast all the way through it. So we're going to probably put 20, 25 drops, whatever you decide, because you can like do a stick test, like dip the stick and look at it. Whatever you choose, just make sure we keep it the same every time. So you do have to listen to Leah. If you don't work with her. So
He's going to get the droppers now.
the dropper's okay. The rest of us, I'll show you. You guys can kind of watch both sides. This is your wall epoxy. If you are too close to me, it's super sweet, but nobody can see. And I'm just giving you a hard time. Ha, the wall guy right there. I can send the ladder back out. We don't need it. Can we get rags and alcohol? And a bunch of extra large gloves. Thank you, sir. It's better to keep stuff clean than try to clean it up afterwards. So stay clean as you're going. If now I got epoxy on my hands, I just kept moving all over the place and touching everything, the mess just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So usually you notice the more experienced epoxy guys can stay really clean, and when they make a mess, they stop and fully clean it up before they go. If you don't do that, it'll really get away from you. There's wall epoxy. So sticks to a vertical surface. This is just the resin. So as you can tell, that obviously works. We'll need more. Dominic, yeah. usually have pre-measured bags that come with these. I'm just using a big bulk bag from the classroom, so I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. And usually I go overboard on everything. Whoop, my pants are down, sorry. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your help. Jamie's actually an amazing artist too, so. Man, you smell good.
Thank you guys.
I don't know if you smell good.
Just got a hand in his stuff.
This is the hardener. Now, we measure this out so that you can actually mix the entire contents in your actual resin container so you're not having to switch pails. We're going to drill mix this for approximately a minute. This is the only product we're looking for a consistency, not necessarily a mix time or a temperature. We also do know if this is too cold, it's not going to mix properly. So we want to make sure it's up to 70 degrees to start. We're not looking for 3 minutes, switching buckets, 3 minutes, letting it exotherm up to 90 or anything like that. We're going to mix this for approximately a minute, then we're going to stick mix 30 seconds, whatever it takes to get any unmixed A off the sides of the container or the floor. So you got to scrape the bottom and the sides of the container with a stick, put that back in the middle, and then we're going to drill mix for about another 30 seconds to a minute again. We're looking for a really smooth, creamy product. We're troweling it on the wall, so we're going to keep working that product. It does need to be mixed well, but it's not the same as the countertop product. It's a little more forgiving. Yeah, perfect. Thanks, man. Oh, you're good, dude.
We should have enough right here. We have 3 black, 3 white.
Oh, charcoal. I'm sorry.
And then we have.
No, just a little more charcoal, and that's because I wasn't doing the same thing we were talking about.
Okay.
So I'm gonna still test a little like
Another
that.
bag of charcoal.
Yeah, or 2 maybe. 2 just in case. Now, if you want to mix this, I'll let you. The last person that we let mix this, not the very last, but a few classes ago, got this spinning pretty fast and got an amazing amount of epoxy everywhere. Right after I told her to be careful, and she shut me up and told me she'd done it before. And then it went. I do that all the time. The other thing you do is cut an X in your lid. And then slip your paddle through that X in the lid. If you ever do get powder getting away from you, you can always spray it. A lot of times on jobs to control dust, I'll walk through, I'll sweep everything, leaf blow everything. I like leaf blowers because it'll blow so much dust out of the little contours of the ceiling you never even knew were there. That'll be falling in your job. And then you can walk through with a backpack sprayer, turn it to the most misted possible, and use 99% alcohol because it'll evaporate quickly. And you can just spray the air down really quickly in there, and it'll hit any dust in the air and take it to the floor and then evaporate. So. Be careful ever adding too much alcohol. A lot of people use isopropyl in their epoxies. Be really careful to not add too much, because once you have too much isopropyl, especially they'll use the like 70% or 91%. You're putting a lot of water in your epoxy, which will create blushing and it won't be color stable. The other thing is if it doesn't all evaporate before the chemical cure takes place, it'll leave kind of a foamy, softer epoxy cure. It'll never cure like it should. Now this, we don't care about air bubbles because we are compressing it on the wall, they'll all come out. This is charcoal. mixing stick. I guess not.
So earlier we were talking about using it as a sealant in between panels.
Yes, sir.
You're not going to mix that whole thing. I mean,
It's a 2-to-1 mix ratio approximate, and you just kind of get it as close as you can.
I'll be right back.
So-
Grab Leo drill and us all our sticks.
Right. Thank you.
What's the tolerance of this stuff like sitting on the shelf? Like temperature, you know,
Um,
well, it gets real hot, so if we're not
You're fine. I mean, I try to keep all my resin temperature controlled. If you keep it below, say, 50 and 80, you're usually pretty good. Really pure resins, like really pure casting resins, can crystallize at long-term low temps. So we can dilute those casting resins so that they don't crystallize, but then we lose clarity. So if you want an ultra clear resin, it does have a tendency to crystallize. If you leave it like 50 degrees, it can crystallize.
yeah, because like if I leave this in a work van or a work truck for us in the middle of August, I get in a truck at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it may be 120 degrees.
That's it. Now, if I was going to pour it on a job, I'd have to try to get it back down to temp, because if you start out at 120 degrees and you mix it, you're going to cure really, really fast. You probably won't have working time. So sometimes I'll leave the stuff on the job the day before and stuff. Yeah. I try to be really planned with when I have a bunch of resin and really hot temps, but I've had to install jobs all over the world when it was really hot. And
So you just leave it in their house?
yeah, Well, I don't know. I've worked for some real assholes that probably minded, but I'm usually pretty blunt with people up front. I've been nice to people up front, and then you have to be blunt later, and that doesn't work very well. Set the expectations from the get-go. Have you ever had people just need real unrealistic things to happen? You're like, well, I'm trying to get you the best quality, and you want the quality, but you don't want me to be able to do it. So I'd rather just end the job right there and be like, if I can't do it right, go get somebody else. And you know what? They'll always keep you around. And then they shut their fucking mouth and let you do your job. You ever try to be too nice to somebody? And then later you're like, I was such an idiot. Then they walk all over you.
So you shouldn't let it get much colder than 50 degrees, is that what you're saying?
That's more casting resin. It can freeze thaw too. But remember this has a higher density than water, and we talked about that on the first day. So you can't just warm it up real quick. You have to let it really acclimate for at least 24 hours usually.
If it's crystallized, can you bring it up to temperature and it'll go back to it?
Yep, you can crystallize resin by heating it up.
Yeah, that's what.
I mean, you can uncrystallize resin from warming it up.
So like if you get a crystallized, you can make like a tub of hot water and you set it in there and let it.
Yeah, or I used to have a closet at my other shop that was up. I put about 4 pallets. I stacked them up. So it was about this high, and I had a really hot heater that I'd blow down through it, and I'd just set anything crystallized on there and separate it. Even just cold stuff I wanted to warm up, and the air would be coming right up through them all. So, and you could cook crystallization right out of something in one night. Leave it overnight like that. I'm gonna put this guy in charge of what I'm doing now, so. I trust him. I don't say uh-oh. Ray. Somebody grab me a little putty knife over there.
Metal or plastic?
Plastic. Who wants to start digging this out of this container? Now, whoever does this, work very slow. If you drop it on the floor, stop what you're doing, clean it up, or have somebody clean it up. So we won't just keep going and hope it goes away. It won't go away. I'm sure that halfway through this, or 10% through this, we're going to keep running tape and drape. What I usually do is pull this out now, the tape and drape on the floor, and I'll keep pulling more tape and drape over the top. We might have 5 rows of this when we're done if we're messy, and that's fine. At least it won't be sticking to the floor and it won't be sticking to our shoes. Who wants to do this? You might want, oh, you're good. I'll let Green Mile do it for now. Then you guys fight over it. I saw him keystering a shank earlier, so be careful. Can I get one more putty knife?
Yeah.
Just want it dug in and put on the wall.
Yes, sir. And we'll start one more batch mixing right now. Nope, I don't want you. I want because this is their class.
Ray was on the mix. You know, put Ray.
Ray's in charge of this being good. If anything sucks, we'll talk to Ray.
Talk to Ray.
Do you want another charcoal we buy or a white?
Charcoal. We'll run all one color and then we'll start adding accents to it.
Probably grab some gloves on real quick.
No, not at all. No, we're good. Now the speed that you push the product at, the speed that you push it at has a lot to do with how smooth it is, right? So you can put a ton of pressure on this when you're moving too fast. You'll see guys doing this and they can't work it. Look at that, you slow it down a little. I'm almost applying no pressure, but I'm moving slow. I scrape it right off smooth to my wall. So if you want it thinner, move slower. Almost all blades will have a concave one direction or the other, if that makes sense. You want that belly on the wall so you're not scraping the ends of your putty knife.
Okay, good. That'd take a little bit to get out.
Just good coverage. Since we're going over popcorn that's been sanded, that's kind of our limiting factor right now is. Yeah, we're doing it right over drywall. I would prime it. That's a good question. I would prime drywall before I ran this right over it. Yeah, just spray some alcohol if it's going all over it. Now we're going to work from one end to the other all the way to the ceiling. We have a ladder or somebody tall enough to get it, but we're not going to just work across the bottom and leave the top. A lot of people do what's convenient. I always see the middle of a wall look super good, and lazy people don't hit the top or the bottom very much. Who's a good drywaller? Do we have a Mexican? My kids aren't here. Normally I'd be making them do this because I feel like it's in their blood, but nobody? A good drywaller? Anybody? Yeah. No, never. This metal.
Oh, it is?
Uh-huh. Now watch out, guys. You guys have some drips going on there. That'll turn into a mess real quick.
Throw some tape and drape over it real quick.
Just clean it. Can I get somebody volunteer to help us clean stuff that's been dripping? I'm thinking we'll mix one more after this of charcoal, yeah. Wait till they mix and spread this though, because we don't want it sitting on the wall too long. Oh yeah, thank you, man.
The smaller one or the bigger one? Probably this one.
That's fine, yeah, that's fine. Oh, bumps. Good Lord, I could see. Can't trust me around here. Sorry about that, man. All right, who wants to try this? Who's my guy?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. You know what? If you run 2 of these, you can clean one off, and you can always keep it on the wall. Working with 2 knives easier. Now, if it starts getting too much of a mess dripped on the floor, we'll just grab that tape and drape. And we won't really necessarily stick it because it'll stick into that epoxy. And 2 guys will just run it and separate it and lay it right into the drips, and then we can start walking in. You're good, man. I'm going to hand you the important job here. Somebody wants to grab a trash can out there, empty one? Oh, we have? Never mind. I looked. All right. I can't help anymore because I'm taking my gloves off. This is a little awkward. Now let's figure out if we need a ladder or what we need to do to go all the way to the ceiling here and get this in.
Do you measure how much charcoal you put in there?
You know, usually it's a pre-measured bag, but I'm just dumping about a third or whatever. I go overboard on everything. It's kind of hurt that wall.
So when you're doing that, right?
Uh-huh.
I know you just handed the wall down, but if you have some serious like imperfections, you really should fix it, right?
Yeah, a lot of times if it's like settling, my dad does some massive settling in the south. He here forever and kept settling.
It's like New Orleans has humongous settling problems.
Yeah, we're famous because we have the shale here. Expands and contracts and drops the house and cracks everything. And so I ran wall epoxy on his, and that was like 2 years ago. Never cracked again. Totally fixed his wall.
That's kind of like sheetrock mud.
Maybe his house will tip over later because I really fucked.
The termites are going to start tearing people shit up. You'll never know.
Yeah, little poof in the wall.
So when I'm just curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're smoothing it out, you know, sheetrock hands.
It's usually just the bucket onto the wall and it'll stay on the wall and start running it. Yeah. And usually, I
So
mean,
it's all basically an eye test.
like if it was doing it, one of us would be mixing and putting it on the wall, one of us would just be spreading it right into place, and somebody else would be going back and finishing out decoratively. So, and we've done some super long, crazy walls, and if you're working on a wall, you can definitely and keep coming back over it.
Let's say we have a huge wall to do. End of the day, and then we're ready to go home. Do we have to make a stopping feather tomorrow?
No, you could feather it pretty even, especially if you plan on sanding or polishing anything later. You can polish out that transition pretty well. I'd want to watch a pattern that's thoughtful as to where I broke my pattern. But it's you can go to a corner or something. So I might keep it at a doorway so it's like above a door so there's less transition for somebody to see or something. So
How common are walls?
what's that?
How common do you do walls?
A lot with this.
Behind like tubs?
We'll sell certain guys will buy like 50 of these kits every month. And they're just right.
Flooring the walls, like the deep casting, I kind of know, and based off of what I kind of know that. You want walls. I don't want to price myself out of business.
No, I totally agree. So, and that's kind of something you have to figure out in your territory what it's at. You should be profitable at $20 a foot on a countertop. You should be profit. You're not making a lot of profit, but that's where your profit margin should start, and that should be no matter what kind of build you had to do. At $20, you should have everything covered twice at $20.
Like where we're at, the pretty much price for granite starts at about $60 a square foot.
Right.
So you want to be under, or you want to be the same price?
A lot of guys, depending on their territory and their customer base, actually be way over granite and not matter. A lot of other areas here, we have to price it and near it. And a lot of problems granite didn't. Like you have the edge profile that couldn't afford. You have like a rig board. It's seamless, undermount sinks. So it's all the details that start making it. It's kind of funny. Guys will work an extra day, but they're profitable.
I was in a shop one day, and I was taking my cutting board, running it through an orbit bit, a routed edge from the bit to. One of my cousins was drinking a beer, and he said, "Well, you just added $100 each one of these things."
You did. Now, I think what you could be getting into is countertops that are like your river table. that's just coming out now, and I think that's going to be huge, having river table countertops. But it'll be a very limited amount of people that could ever compete with you, because a lot of guys can get into epoxy and concrete and all these cool shits, but very few guys could cast this, cut it up, put it on a counter.
I've been teaching myself for 2 years, buying the tools for 2 years. I purposely mix things wrong. We first day going to I've mixed more hardener. That table, when you walk in, that problem is too much hardener. It hardened too fast. It created air bubbles that would never come out.
CNC too fast.
Okay.
They were making 20 miles an hour. I said, slow it down. And they were like, pieces were flying like here to that far wall. And I was like, you got to slow down. And as soon as you slowed down, it would cut nicely. But yeah.
So I have a lot of time in that. You know, going on the internet, reading this, calling, I deal with eco-books and stuff.
Right.
Which is hard to do.
Right.
And I don't know.
With probably foot all day, and
well, I'm doing mine now. I'm 60 feet, 22 feet, about 14 foot tall, and it's all designed to and right now I'm building countertops, like countertops.
Right.
But as I bring up my construction company, what I do, I want them to see to come into my house. I'm living what I'm trying to sell.
That's very important.
Now I want to do some of my floors, doing stuff. So one of the walls, my back countertops that we're doing it out of this. Like the kids that get from here. So that way I can show both river tables on the big front and the back. Your stuff on the other countertops. Right. So you can see it all.
Right. That's cool. That'll be a cool show. I'm excited to see the river table stuff, because I think they're nothing classier than that else. Yeah. We get a lot of jobs that we refer out to. I mean, we'll never take a job at all. I will not do anything for profit, and I haven't for several years, because I refuse to make money and supply. Every company that supplies and takes work, you have to know they're stealing all the good stuff and passing on the shit. So, which was hard to pass it up, because I passed up some good stuff, but we refer probably at least 1,200 jobs a year to just in the U.S. and then a lot of stuff outside. So I'm limited. There's a lot of areas that can do more complex river tables and stuff.
And that can be shipped.
But it's kind of a new thing, and some of the guys that can do it don't know enough about shipping or strapping or bundling or building a pallet out.
Yeah.
And I better check. What do you think? Oh yeah, that's gonna be badass. What is that, 25 or something? 30, good. Huh? Who? First form? Of what? I don't hear shit, I'm sorry. I have terrible. Oh, I don't know. Really? Cool. Try to be different. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Just any paint would stick right to it.
Application, would you do anything different for shower surrounds?
No, this is shower surround. Okay. Let's not forget this end, guys, before we get too far down.
Trowel marks.
Don't worry about trowel marks, because we're gonna run this as it sets up. We're gonna come right back with another coat. Yeah, that's what I was saying. They need to run this on any further. Then sometimes what I'll do, I'll run sideways with my knife to just, because sometimes you don't realize when you're running all vertical how wavy, because you have real thick spots in there, and when you cross trowel, you really seeing like big piles come off your wall, and you might get double the distance down your wall. Product. So sometimes you'll start running across. We have a black dude that's quite a bit bigger than him that came and helped us with the other one. Run it right down the wall, and he's a drywaller, so he's really good at it. I don't know why I had to. He's like the biggest dude we've ever had here, and he'll just reach his hand up and he can just scrape the whole.
You would normally measure, so it would normally be a package.
Yeah, usually it's pre-measured. I'm just using bulk stuff in the classroom. Yeah. Yeah, you just need more.
Some questions about sanding it, if it was similar to sanding other things.
There you go. It's pretty easy. No, not that one. Get the small one, put it on the wall, you spread it, then you use the corner trowel. And anybody taking it out should have 2 knives, so you're not working it on your hands. Yeah.
Will you go watch this real quick? I have to go grab a towel.
Yep.
Question on, you were talking like
fresh
drywall. Are you talking using keels or is it?
Because that absorbs out and you get all the string. That's anything like that, yeah. Do you guys think this mix has been done?
Yeah. Yeah. She said we mixed it, paint stick, mixed it again. Are you the rest of it smoke?
Yeah, all of it. Okay. Could do.
I was thinking.
Could do. We'll be doing that anyway. We want to see through all these. Yeah.
Sorry.
We pour from one end, like real slow. From the middle color and pour another. I'm afraid. I just want to. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start pouring in here. You'll be able to pour some.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it would be. That'd be a bad spot. Watching it work through all the little grooves. Oh, that's amazing.
How many drops was Leah? 30. 30? Okay.
Nice and cool in this room. Casting. The product. The room's cool. The countertop, this will be a pain because we have 2 days before it's up, being this cold. But with casting, that's amazing. So we can pour pretty thick. The surface is cool. We'll shoot the surface and see what we are like on this.
70.
Yeah.
71. And this 76. So it'll go down.
Was the product?
Yeah.
Castings and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Like the whole outside.
Sure.
So, this and your deep casting inched in what? How thick can you pour this in one pour?
Like this, we can do the whole thing today.
So about 1 3/4.
Yeah, technically too, if it's broke up with aggregate like this, if it's a big open area, it would get hot if we poured over probably 1 inch. We are slowing it. Yeah, that'll help. We are changing it a little bit and slowing it down quite a bit. So our casting is going to get a lot slower so we can pour a lot thicker. Yeah, this is casting resin.
And this is sandable.
Yeah, a lot temperature dependent, how fast it cured. And if we let it cook, we could probably sand it in the morning first thing.
That one's
Yeah.
done. Do you want me
Start pouring the far end. Yeah. As slow as you need to be to where it actually works out like this, guys. Yeah, I'll have to. I'll have to. Yeah, eventually. There's a big black man, Chase. He's gonna take my bucket. Whoop, there's a levy. I think that's gonna be awesome, you know? Like once it's all filled, badass. I don't know, wait, because I have a real good, I'm really good at picking things up right before they're good and done. I think I'm the most impatient guy I've ever met. Yeah, and I don't want to be pouring all over and then having to clean all the acrylic off everywhere. Keep the work down as much as possible. Yeah. And then I'll put a clear epoxy over the top of everything. Anything about so the Broncos never go again. Did you know when I fucking hated it? I went to a Broncos Chargers game with my sister. She's from San Diego, so she wore a Chargers jersey. I saw so many grown up men cussing and yelling, like they were really like. You think John Elway is like, you got my back because that 5 foot long girl. Thanks for saying you'd beat her ass. Like, just people. And I was so glad the Chargers stomped the Broncos, and I was like, yeah, I'm cheering for him. If you're gonna act like an idiot and be cussing at some little girl.
People get too into it.
Way too. I'm like, I don't think any of the guys on the field give a shit.
My cousin went to an Indian game and got a beer. He was like 8 years old.
Indians? Crazy. I just thought it'd be when it matches everything. We really have everything in here is like black, white, and gray. So I thought I'd just keep it like that. I didn't want too many colors. Clear. 30 drops of liquid black pigment. Yeah, it's pretty thick. This is hard. This is
Like I said, the cypress has so many hidden spots. Always waiting for air to come out.
Try epoxy on a scrap too and see what you get. Epoxy because it was it was actually rotten in part of the wood.
Yeah.
And I tried that into it. And it actually soaked it with epoxy first to seal it up before the epoxy dried. I troweled wall epoxy and all. Sanded it the next day. I put a heat lamp on it, sanded it. It was amazing. No bubbles either. Not one air bubble. Because usually I would have been fighting with it forever.
And then
Yes, sir. What's that? This ain't gonna be 20 grand. Something like
That's the no fair.
a 20-foot table. I mean, I think you're. You know, if you had a Lamborghini pulled, if you look like a cranky ass bitch, 60. Like if you're a white woman that's is yep, and then we'll use clean whatever they don't get perfect. Yeah, and all my years I've been on 1,000 jobs. The thing I fear the most is the middle-aged beast. That animal, yeah, she'll bite you. She might just spending somebody else's money. She talks about what she has while her days at work. He never wants to be at home. So, with her.
I'm friends with the manager. She's the one with Bob and
Crossways across the wall too to bring it down if you can. You got it covered. If you run for it, that's fine, Dom. I don't really
See, I think each one of us are all going to find a pair to work here.
It's not cheap. This is not a cheap thing to get into. So remember that when you're bidding. Oh, this is a casting resin. This is not what you're pouring into the, but just remember that pouring casting resin gets expensive. You want to be very methodical when you pour it. Never figure on man hours. I just do square foot and figure out what I can make. Because if you can save time, you're always gonna. Things don't always go very smooth. Wait and pour. It's really tough to get. You can get a table that's 40 square feet. A kitchen 60. You could get in a 60 square foot kitchen. You can easily make $700 and there for $500. Table, it's 40 square feet, slightly smaller. You're not making $3,000 or $4,000 to do a table. So, because nobody's going to pay that much. The square footage is there, but the perceived value is not. So tables are usually a lot cheaper than a counter. You made those, or you? Oh, that's cool.
You almost had it really excited.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm slow. 2 more fulls, like we did. Oh. Yeah, we'll get it in. Super. This is. What do you mean? We're gonna pour all one.
I mean, both basically got down there, right?
You set the epoxy and then colored and then again. We'll pour it again. Layer, clear. Yeah, it'll look like it's sandwiched in glass or something.
Okay.
It'll, no. See how slow that guy is down there?
They'll be finished by next week.
kind of needs to be. Hey, Leo, what's next week? Samples class? Next week we're running a class. We're going to teach you how to do epoxy. We're just going to give everybody, they're going to run every single sample. So we're going to go home with white marble, silver, black marble, and copper patina, everything we do, and we're going to try to do really clean and really finished samples for every single person. Is anybody planning on being in next week's class from here? Anybody that wants a free spot can go, and we're actually charging quite a bit for that. We'll ship you other stuff. You're going to go? Awesome. You have diversity now. I'm going to take you to meet those dangerous ladies. You'll make them happy. I'll be like, how did you not have problems with them? How come you did so much? They're waiting on you. Yeah. 2 months, I believe. It's a good class. Some really good people. What's that, sir? Yes, I do. You know, I also may cut this table off. Just to kind of, I don't like what it looks like. I was worried, like, so amazing, and then I see that. If anybody grabs some alcohol, you can spray down the cracks right now. All the way through. Clear. It'll be crystal clear on the bottom too. We'll see right through it. Days into it. We'll probably just run something and cut it perfectly. Clear. A little bit easier there. If you or even probably 2 hours. Friday. Not at all. Way wrapped up. Just because of how much pressure is when it's 20 below to 130. That's to never seen a film ever. Nothing. Nothing. You're doing two, right? You might take a rag, clean up that, and we'll start another batch, and you can pour in whatever. Start more. Kind of got to be a little bit quick because we're about to hit lunch. What do you think? She's younger, but this lady's older, but looks so much like her. It's ridiculous. No. Every time I see you, I'm like, oh man, I don't mind it. She's awesome. She's a really good lady.
Where's the,
Huh? Yeah, that's okay. Right, I got you. Go overboard, guys. Run it out. Now keep it tight, Dom. Keep it tight. Up, off the ground, off the ground. Stop, everybody. You. Yeah, don't touch it for a second. I'll show you. I'll get it to you. Yeah, if you stick it to the ground, it'll be a pain in the ass. Now we'll just do this. Now, and then you and me will just set it. Way easier than trying to, because once you stick it to the floor, we won't be able to unbond it to actually stretch it out, if that makes sense. And you're fine there. Yeah, if you actually, and the reason I was picky about that, guys, is once you stick it to the floor and then try to pull it out, you're pulling all that stick epoxy across the floor. You usually rip it and redo another whole layer. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And what I guess the question is, if that's rated 5 to 800 degrees, what is the MDF coating?
That's your limitation right there. But it's fine. I mean, we've took frying pans and set it directly on it. No, where I have seen issues is pouring over Formica. The Formica to the particle will separate, so it won't make another substrate not fail. So, 100 degrees, that's amazing, but it's also for incidental contact. I don't want, like, we won't warranty against somebody that's using it for constant contact type of heat. So, like, got something there and then moved it, it's fine. I mean, think boiling water's 212. It's not even close to the top range of that. So.
Well, we were just going to play with it, but wood here to steel. We have a lot of liners and dump trucks.
Just make sure you sand it to get a mechanical bond. So pretty coarse, so it'll grab it. Oh yeah, you probably could. I have something for stuff like that. It's a real flexible epoxy. You can actually take it, freeze it down to 0 degrees, and fold. So that's a really amazing. Oh yeah, they'd be fine with that. Yeah, if you got a mechanical bond. So, yeah. Might be the easiest. Yeah.
It's not being another option.
Yeah. We've done all kinds of stuff, so it's a cool idea to. Right. Right. Nothing to get behind it. Yeah, no kidding. Just go up over that edge too, and then you could really scuff that top where the ends. Make sure that's. Because I've even seen floors fail where the floor didn't fail, but maybe the substrate did or something. But since it's all flat, you never would know. You can hear it on this, but it was a perfect for years. So, yeah, no kidding. That could be very profitable. Don't tell anybody what you're doing. Just doing liners. Yeah, don't tell that guy what.
Wait until after.
Yeah, we may.
11, 20.
We don't have time, yeah.
And I was thinking maybe shipping has an extra kit. Maybe we could grab, so we have 3 for the pearl.
We're going to do a color of it. We can make accents of it. And grab a true stainless.
So we already have.
Okay, cool.
I have.
We might just run some non-colored.